Why some people can't stop. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Sacred Man Experience podcast. I am your host Imran Muhammad, aka the Pattern Interrupter. Here we speak about the journey of manhood through the lens of faith, how to be strong but also soft, how to lead but also to listen. Today I want to explore a question that comes up repeatedly in human behavior, addiction work, and personal transformation. Why do some people struggle to stop behaviors that they know are harming them? Not because they are unaware, not because they are unintelligent, but because something deeper is happening underneath the behavior. Let me be clear from the beginning. This episode is not only about substance addiction, it's about behavioral patterns, emotional patterns, psychological loops, and the hidden mechanisms that keep people stuck. Over the years, through coaching, rehabilitation environments, prison chaplaincy work, and working with individuals in different stages of crisis and transformation, I have noticed something consistently. People rarely repeat harmful behavior because they enjoy the consequences. They repeat it because of what it does for them in that moment. Let me explain. I once worked with an individual who was highly capable in many areas of life. He understood his situation clearly. He could describe the consequences in detail. He was intelligent, articulate, and self aware. And yet, he kept returning to a behavior that he knew was damaging his life. From the outside, people would say, "Why don't you just stop?" But from the inside, it was not that simple. Because the behavior was not just a behavior, it was a solution, at least in the short term. Now, this is a key point. Most destructive behaviors survive not because they are good, but because they provide relief. It could be relief from stress, relief from anxiety and feeling anxious, relief from emotional pressure, relief from internal discomfort. And human beings, by nature, are wired to move toward relief, even when that relief has a cost. So the question is not only why can't they stop? The deeper question is, what function is this behavior serving? Let's go deeper. There are three core reasons people struggle to stop patterns. Firstly, emotional regulation. Secondly, identity attachment. And thirdly, neurological reinforcement. Let's start with emotional regulation. Many behaviors become tools for managing internal states. When someone feels overwhelmed, they seek escape. When someone feels anxious, they seek comfort. When someone feels empty, they seek stimulation. The behavior becomes a coping mechanism, not necessarily a choice in the moment, but a response to internal discomfort. Now, let's look at identity attachment. Over time, repeated behavior becomes part of how someone sees themselves. I am someone who does this. I am someone who struggles with this. I am someone who can't stop this. And once identity is involved, behavior becomes harder to change. Because changing behavior feels like changing yourself. It has become a strong part of your identity. Now, let's look at neurological reinforcement. The brain learns through repetition and reward. If a behavior consistently provides relief or stimulation, the brain begins to prioritize. It's not because it is good, but because it is familiar and rewarding in the short term. And this is where many people become trapped because the short term reward outweighs the long term consequences in the moment of decision. Let me bring this into real life, into a real situation. I have seen people who are fully aware of the damage being caused by their behavior. They understand the impact, they understand the consequences, they even regret it afterwards. But in the moment of pressure, the behavior returns. Not because they forget the consequences, but because the emotional state took priority over long term thinking. Now, I want to say something very clearly. Willpower alone is not enough for sustainable change. Let me give you that again. Willpower alone is not enough for sustainable change because willpower is not stable. It fluctuates depending on stress, environment, emotion, fatigue. So, relying purely on discipline without understanding the underlying pattern often leads to relapse. And let's be very practical about this. If you want to understand why you cannot stop something, ask this very crucial question. What am I actually getting from this behavior in the moment? Not in theory, not in reflection, but in the moment. Is it relief that I'm getting? Is it escape? Maybe. Is it stimulation that I get from this? Is it comfort that I receive? Or is it avoidance? Because once you identify the function, you begin to understand the pattern. Now, I want to offer you 3 reflective questions. Question number 1. What emotion do I usually feel right before I engage in this addictive behavior? Question number 2. What does this behavior, negative behavior, temporarily solve for me? And number 3, what am I avoiding when I engage in this behavior? Something which is destructive in that moment. Because awareness changes the relationship between you and the behavior. And when the relationship changes, change becomes possible. Now, I want to close with this. People do not only struggle with stopping behaviors, they struggle with what they believe they will feel if they stop. The fear. Because sometimes the behavior is not the problem, it is the protection. The protection from discomfort, from silence, from emotional exposure. What healing begins, when healing begins, we are willing to face what the behavior has been covering. So today, take a moment, be honest, not with judgment, but with clarity. What is your behavior doing for you? This pattern of behavior that has become in your mind, in your heart, something significant and important. What is it doing for you? Because once you understand that, you are no longer blind to it. And once you are no longer blind to it, you are no longer trapped in the same way. Thank you for listening and joining me on the Sacred Man Experience podcast. Until next time, stay aware, stay honest, and continue becoming the person you were created to be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.